I'm not a big fan of the gloves in terms of like stripping, these little like sort of sun gloves or lightweight gloves. I feel like you can't feel as well as you need. And while it might save you from some sort of like burn from the fly line, I don't think it's worth that. That sort of protection is not worth the feeling that you get from being able to strip or feel, a fish.
That was Sim Whatley talking about some of the gear you won't be seeing in the Duck Camp lineup this year. Another classic founder story today on the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Hey, how's it going today? Thanks for stopping by the Fly Fishing Show. Want to give a quick shout out to our member-supported podcast group. If you want to keep the lights on, head over to wetflyswing.com/members and check out what we have going there. This is going to get you to a link where you can check out our partnership with Glow. Glow FM is providing a great way to provide some bonus content if you want to sign up for a very low monthly or annual fee. Thanks in advance if you are a member. Sim Whatley, founder of Duck Camp, is here to shed some light on their outdoor clothing products. We find out how it all got started in the Middle East with Sim, how his business, some of the stuff he had going was started over there. And we also talk about why he doesn't like the convertible short pants, something I still wear, but got called out a little bit there on it today. And we also get nerdy with the Merino Wool and some of the lightweight gear they have going. So it's another fun one. Plenty of great gear topics today. Without further ado, here is Sim Whatley from duckcamp.com. How's it going, Sim?
It's going good, Dave. How about yourself?
Good. Great to have you on here. I'm looking forward for chatting a little bit about some of the stuff you have going. We chatted a while back in the duck camp. I used to love duck hunting back in the day before I had kids and got a little too distracted, but I'm hoping to get back into it. I did want to touch on, a little bit of that, a little bit of, your fishing background, but can you just talk about how you first got into fly fishing?
Yeah, sure. So me personally, I grew up in Louisiana and grew up hunting and fishing quite a bit. But after college, I spent, and most of that growing up in my younger years was just conventional sort of spin and bait casting type fishing, mostly inshore. But then after college, I moved overseas for about 10 years, and I lived in the Middle East, and I got introduced by a friend there actually in the Persian Gulf to fly fishing. And when I moved back to Louisiana and to the U.S. kind of early 2014, just kind of went down to my local fly shop and kind of got the first setup and started practicing in the park. And Louisiana and we were living in New Orleans at the time, being so close to such a great fishery, 45 minutes basically to like a world-class redfish fishery and others, was kind of a great spot for me to sort of learn and continue to learn.
Nice. And what was the Middle East? How did you find yourself over there?
Yeah, so like I said, I grew up in Louisiana. I went to LSU, kind of having lived for 21 or so years, mostly in the same city, apart from a few little adventures. Just felt like I needed to kind of get out and carve my own path, and had an opportunity to do kind of a sales type role. I studied finance in college, but with the desire to sort of go see the world a little bit, took a sales job and got sent to the Middle East of all places. And so I spent some time in Kuwait and Jordan and Abu Dhabi, and then ultimately landed in Dubai after about a year of that job. And a buddy and I had an idea to start. At the time, there was only like newspaper classifieds. So if you wanted to buy a car or a couch or find a job, you would have to go down to the little local convenience store and buy a newspaper and flip through. And it's kind of like going back in time 20 or 30 years. And we realized that there was an opportunity there to maybe start a Craigslist type service, online classifieds for the Middle East. And so we had that idea, and we were young at the time and super naive and thought, we could do it. And I think we were 24 when we started it, and one thing led to another, and 10 years went by. So we spent, some a good chunk of our mid 20s, early 30s in the Middle East, but wouldn't really trade it for anything.
No kidding. And was that time, I'm just thinking back, not knowing, I always think when I think of Middle East, you just think of the wars and stuff like that. But were you, there during that time, or what was that like?
We were there, yeah. So we moved there in 2005. So the Iraq War was still going on, we were still, the U.S. still had a presence there, and Afghanistan, and Dubai is a sort of a very insulated, sort of unique place within the Middle East. Its population is maybe 20% local and 80% expatriate, and it also really attracts a lot of the investment from the Arab world. So it's a super safe place.
Yeah.
They have their own investments there, and so they have no reason to kind of mess that up. And then because of the really diverse communities there, it's a pretty dynamic place, and you can kind of see what they've been able to build, from the desert in 20 years is pretty impressive as well.
Wow, it's amazing. Yeah, that's so I'm sure. Yeah, like you said, it's probably directed and helped guide some of the path you're on now. And so you come back to the U.S. and then you pick up fly fishing at your local fly shop. What was is that local fly shop still there? Is there a name for that shop?
Unfortunately not. Like a lot of independently owned fly shops, it shut down a couple years after I moved there. It was called Uptown Angler, and it was right in the CBD of New Orleans, and had been there for a while. But yeah, bought a little skiff, and just kind of self-taught a little bit, and still by no means an expert, but like to get out there and get stuck on a low tide and try and catch some fish every now and again.
Nice. Well, we're going to dig into, obviously some of the fishing, and you guys have a bunch of apparel, a bunch of great stuff for fishing. But I want to hear about the duck camp, because I think, obviously you hear the name duck camp. You don't think of fly fishing right away, but describe, I haven't really been to a duck. I mean, is there take us to the duck camp itself. What is that when you go out there hunting? How is that different from, say, different types of places you might go, or different types of species you might be hunting for?
Yeah. So the brand name, there is duck camp. It has duck in it, which is quite a specific type of hunting. But what we were trying to go for with the name was, and unfortunately, there's not like a universal name for these places that you go. But, some people might call it fish camp or deer camp or quail ranch or duck camp. But what we were trying to evoke, I think, with the name is the emotion of getting out of the city, going to a place that's off the beaten path, maybe on the water or in the woods, and that excitement of kind of packing that bag for a long weekend to go down the dirt road, to kind of check out, and to spend time either chasing fish or chasing animals, or just generally with friends and family, in the outdoors. And so we landed on duck camp because I felt like, that was a passion of mine, and of many. There is an excitement around the duck camp that I experienced as a kid, which is just that it's a place where friends and family go. There's a lot of jokes and tall tales that are told. There's a lot of good food and some drinks involved. There's usually a bonfire. And so the hunt or the fishing experience, it sort of is the center of it, but by no means is it all of it. And so we were trying to create a brand that was about everything, about tying flies or training dogs, or tuning up your boat, the sort of the things that go in before the activity, then the activity itself, whether it's, chasing tailing reds, or hunting ducks, or, going after whitetail. And so in that experience and having apparel for that, and then additionally, like the celebration and the cleanup and, the food and the drinks and the jokes and all of that sort of stuff. So by choosing the name Duck Camp, we were really just trying to evoke that emotion of that place that you go to kind of reset and get back to nature.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it totally resonates. I mean, I think you guys pretty much hit it on the head because, even though you hear Duck Camp, the duck. I mean, I think of Elk Camp. You know what I mean? Like, that's
Yeah.
exactly what I think of. I think of Elk Camp. It's this place where once a year, well, we haven't been in a few years because the hunting has kind of gone downhill a little bit. But, it was like once a year, the whole family got together and it's like, okay, Elk Camp, we're going there. We all know what it meant. It was a huge thing every year. So I think you guys nailed it with that.
Yeah. And it could be it could be a lodge that's, your sort of one, um, treat to yourself every year where it's like, 5-star, or it could be a single wide trailer in the middle of the woods. But I think that the emotion is the same regardless of that of that structure or how nice it is or how rustic it is. But it's like that feeling of um, going out there, getting out there, and spending time in the woods and with friends and family.
Nice. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about just the gear you guys have. I mean, and maybe with a focus here on the fly fishing and kind of fishing apparel. I know you guys have a bunch
Sure.
of different, actually haven't worn any of your stuff, but I mean, from the looks of it and from from the reviews and things like that, looks like pretty killer stuff. When you search fishing apparel, I think like Columbia Sportswear and Huck. Right, those, and I'm not even that familiar with Huck, but those Columbia I know really well. They come up, right? They've got the lightweight pants and stuff like that. Can you talk about what you guys have in your line and maybe how it might be a little bit different than some of the other brands, maybe some of those other bigger ones that are out there?
Sure. Yeah. So I think it's important to remember that we're pretty young still. We've been trying to roll out new products pretty quickly as a young brand, but this is really this is our second spring fishing sort of line that we've
Nice.
launched, and it launches today. And this year is more significant and bigger than last year's, and next year's we already have planned, and it's going to be really exciting as well. We were going for our sort of qualities that we go for are versatility and comfort, across all different environments and conditions. And so, you'll see pieces that we make that are just as comfortable, on the airplane to the Bahamas as they are at the bar, as they are on the bow of the boat. And so, this season we have what we call our signature fishing shirt in short sleeves and long sleeves. It's a super lightweight and soft nylon material, and we prefer nylons over polyesters. We feel like the traditional sort of what you mentioned, Columbia PFG shirt, and all the other shirts that kind of came on the back of those are typically 100% polyester, which in our opinion, doesn't breathe as well as nylon and can feel sort of plasticky and can sometimes sort of stick to your skin.
Yeah.
And there's a few sort of issues that we had with that as a fabric. So we kind of went back to basics, or we went back to the drawing board, I guess, and looked at hundreds of other fabrics in terms of composition and weight. And so what we've settled on with our signature fishing shirt is a really lightweight. It's got a little bit of stretch to it, which helps with mobility and casting and that sort of stuff. And it's super soft on the skin. And it's just kind of a classic sort of style. So anyway, we do those in a couple solids, a couple plaids, short sleeve, long sleeve. We've got drifter pants, again, a nylon material that's quick drying. We do those in shorts and pants in a couple colors. We have what we call our scout shorts, which are sort of a liner. It's got a liner in it, so it sort of doubles as like a swim short. Again, kind of versatility wise, like if you want to jump out the boat and wade for a bit, or if you end up finding a swimming hole somewhere along the river where you're at, it's kind of doubles as swim short slash fishing short slash everyday short. Got a great line of ultralight rain jackets. We felt like the market was kind of lacking. A lot of rainwear is kind of that heavy duty, either insulated or at least like bomb-proof, heavy-duty jackets, which as the weather warms up, are sometimes hard to wear. So ours is super lightweight, 3-layer, really high waterproof ratings and breathability, but packs into its own pocket and kind of can stuff down into your bag and be there whenever you need it. We had a few insulating pieces that we added to the line this season. One we call the Head Guide hoodie, which is just a pullover half zip hoodie, which is super cozy and comfortable. Keeps you warm, on those boat rides out. But has like a DWR, which is like a durable water repellency sort of finish to the outside of it, and it's a Cordura nylon, so it'll take a beating and still look good. Got some down products, dry down, so it's been treated to insulate even when wet and keep its loft. So it's kind of waterproof down, as well as the fabric itself is water repellent. So if you get wet, boat spray, or you fall in the river or whatever, it'll continue to keep you warm. And so we do those in vests and jackets. Yeah, I feel like I'm just rambling on, but we have a bunch of bamboo products as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the bamboo, because I think, there's a few materials that the nylon, I think that's a really interesting thing to talk about, the difference between nylon versus some of the other more plastic type materials, but also bamboo.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the advantages of bamboo, say, over a nylon, and why would you want to go with one or the other?
So we use bamboo in our knits. So we sort of characterize knits versus wovens. So a woven is your typical sort of like, shirt, button-up shirt material, whereas a knit is more of like your t-shirt material. So for wovens, we use nylon, and it's much more common to use that fiber to weave into a woven. Whereas on the knit side, we choose bamboo over, say, you can do polyester t-shirts, you can do cotton.
Yeah.
We find that the hand feel and the comfort level of bamboo is just kind of second to none. When you put that shirt on, it's just super soft and super comfortable. So
Yeah.
we blend our bamboo with we have two different weights. One of them we blend with polyester. So it's like 65 or 67% bamboo and the rest polyester. So the polyester helps it to dry faster in case it gets wet and lightens it up a little bit. But the majority of the fabric is still that viscose of bamboo. And then another weight that we do, which is a little heavier, we call original weight, we blend with cotton. And that's more of a, you're not going to be around the water much. It's more of a everyday sort of blend. But people just love it. I mean, once you have some bamboo shirts in your closet, it's hard to go back to kind of that 100% cotton.
I agree. Yeah, no, and I've got a couple of bamboo things that are, they feel they're softer. It's kind of way better all around. And obviously we're talking about the fishing apparel, but you guys have a huge line of hunting as well. And I'm not sure how much time we're going to have to dig into that, but I'm curious, as you talk about this, it sounds like you're very knowledgeable about all the different types of fabrics. How did you get into the clothing, and then why not different types of the outdoor market? Why not accessories? How did it sounds like you become an expert in the clothing. How'd that come to be?
Yeah, I didn't have a background in it, but I've had a lot of good, I've tried to educate myself using, good resources and people that are, really experienced here. And a lot of it just comes to kind of diving into it. In the early days, I would visit a big trade show called Outdoor Retailer, and they have a huge sort of sourcing side of that show where they have hundreds of fabric mills and factories that sort of come from all over the world to kind of present everything that they make, and you can spend hours just kind of going from booth to booth, talking to people and touching and feeling things, and sort of and then going back and researching this versus that. I've taken a lot of inspiration from the outdoor industry in general. I think that hunting specifically, and maybe some fishing as well, has been overlooked over the years in terms of like an outdoor category. There's been a lot more innovation and a lot more attention spent on, say, rock climbing or alpine skiing or just generally camping, but not specifically looking at the activities of fishing and hunting. So I think recently you've seen, more, especially in the hunting scene, more brands sort of adapting or adopting those modern fabrics and modern fits to hunt. What we thought, in general, creating this brand, not only did we feel like there was an opportunity to speak to kind of, like I mentioned earlier, like the whole experience, but there haven't been a ton of brands, or really any that you can think of, that have done hunt and fish, equally well and with equal amount of attention. And so even though the overlap, the Venn diagram of our customer is like 80% does both activities. So, what's and the activities are similar. Typically it's time on a boat, or it's time in the water, or it's time around water, in the woods. And so, we've also seen that as an opportunity to sort of speak to, those people that enjoy both activities, and kind of making products that are versatile across both as well. A lot of our products that we make, we do in camos for certain environments, but then, when spring comes around, we'll sort of, reimagine or reprint those products in more fishy colors, more lifestyle sort of stuff that sort of apply to fishing as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I agree. I think the hunting, definitely there's been more work done there, especially recently. Just yesterday I was talking to somebody who had a pair of hunting boots. I think they said, I can't remember the name of the company, but they're like $550 for a pair of hiking boots. You know what I mean? I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I thought $300 was a good price to pay for a pair of boots, but so I mean, you got these hunters out there that that they'll pay whatever. I mean, fishermen, I think, is kind of similar, but maybe the product line isn't quite as adept, but. For you guys, so you decided to go into both, and obviously now you're kind of equally trying, or maybe you're a little bit more in hunting. But why did you start off as hunting and then move into the fishing, or did you start off from the beginning with both lines?
We started off in the beginning, wanting to approach both, but because of the sort of seasonality of hunting, like the seasons open on a certain day and close on a certain day, and it's sort of a finite amount of time that you can do that activity, we find that there's a little more excitement around sort of, it's kind of like Christmas morning to some people for opening day of a certain season. So, there's this buildup of excitement and anticipation towards those seasons, and then they're over. So we always knew that we wanted to do fishing, but we felt like that was like an opportunity that we could do secondary, but we didn't want to let too much time. We also understand and realize that the consumer will sometimes, put you in a box, and will have a hard time, sort of allowing you out of that box. So, we knew that early on. So within the first year of actually starting, we launched a few fishing products because we wanted to let the consumer know that we were serious about both. But I think that our product lines have grown a little faster within hunting than fishing. But I think that that's going to catch up, especially next spring. We have a bunch of really cool new products coming for next spring. And I think that you'll start to see that the lines are going to kind of equal in terms of, and fishing is a year-round thing. So that's another exciting thing. Like, to be able to, we kind of end up pushing fishing a bit more in the spring because it's a time off from hunting. But I think as we grow that market, it'll be a year-round sort of fishing, and then hunting will kind of be, during the hunting season.
That makes sense. No, that totally makes sense. Well, let's kind of take us back. You've mentioned a lot of your gear, but maybe we could talk about, let's say somebody's planning a trip to Belize or whatever, and they just they don't have any gear, and they just want to grab their pants or what would you, for your stuff, what would you say they need to get? What's the line again? They need a pair of like kind of a lightweight pants. What are those called?
Yeah. So our pant short style is called the drifter. So we do the drifter pants and shorts, and the short is just obviously a shorter version of the pant. It's a lightweight nylon that has a little bit of stretch to it, but not too much, because sometimes when those fabrics get wet, they get kind of saggy if they have too much elastic in them.
And these aren't like the zip off pant shorts things.
No.
Yeah, and what do you think of that? Because that used to be, and I still have those. I mean, what's your take on the zip? Is that a good thing, or should you just get a pair of one of each?
Yeah, the convertible shorts pants, I think that they had a time, but I think I don't think that they are I think people are looking for something again that's kind of versatile and a style that can cross over. And sometimes those pants kind of read a little bit, older, as an older crowd. And I can't really tell how many times I've seen someone actually convert, and it's a little bit cumbersome, so anyway, we've kind of just done a short and a pant, and a lot of people, for sun protection and stuff, they want to wear pants on the boat. They want to wear long sleeves and hoods and buffs and pants, and that's great. The sun can definitely take its toll. And then we do the short as well. And then so I would for Belize, I would pack, a pair of both, but probably pants, to protect from the sun. I would have a couple bamboo hoodies in my bag because they're super comfortable and versatile, and you can kind of use that hood again for sun protection. But I would have, maybe a couple of plaid button-up shirts in there too, whether or not you want to fish in them or just kind of wear them after the day for the cocktail hour at the lodge. I'd have a few hats in there, obviously, and I'd have a lightweight rain jacket because you just never know. And in kind of the Caribbean, those little rainstorms can come in pretty quick on you, and you just kind of want to be prepared. It helps also for like the boat rides out in the morning before the sun comes up, just kind of keep you a little bit protected, and then you've got it in case any rain clouds come about.
You always have it. And on that rain jacket, that's interesting because, obviously, rain, depending on where you're at, can be annoying. But you've got the Gore-Tex and you got different types of materials. What do you guys have there? Because I've had some material that actually isn't Gore-Tex, and it's more like it's not rubber, but it's super lightweight, and it's like my favorite jacket. I'm not sure what you guys what you have there.
Yeah, so Gore is a name brand laminate and waterproof sort of laminate that they market. There are hundreds of other laminates that you can get that just don't have the Gore name. So, because of Gore's done a great job marketing themselves, and they make great products, you're quite familiar with their name. But what we've gone after in terms of so when they say 3-layer, that basically means you've got an exterior sort of shell layer. You've got a middle layer, which is the laminate that provides the actual waterproofness and breathability, and then you have the sort of next to skin layer. And so you can have everything from 2-layer, 2.5 layer, 3-layer, 4-layer, it goes up to 5-layer. And so that just tells you how many pieces of material are sort of sandwiched together. And then for a product to be truly waterproof, all of the seams have to be seam sealed and taped, and so that it doesn't allow water to get in, at the shoulder seam or at the yoke seam. So, we've chosen a fabric that has super high waterproof ability. It's like 10,000 waterproof, and that's a rating that says, how much water pressure can this fabric take before it starts to leak. And then there's a breathability measure that measures water vapor and how much water vapor can actually come up through the fabric to breathe when you're wearing it. So the breathability factor rating is actually higher than the waterproof rating, which is good for such a lightweight jacket. You're not really trying to keep warmth in. You're almost trying to keep water off, but some of that hot air out. And so we've chosen our fabric based on that, and I think it would stand up to any kind of Gore fabric that you would throw at it as well. And what's great about it is like the next to skin fabric, which is really important, especially if you're going to be wearing it with like a t-shirt. A lot of these, for a lightweight rain jacket, you have to think about what you're typically going to be wearing. And because it's warm out, you might just have a t-shirt on. Yeah. So to be able to throw a rain jacket on that's like kind of like soft on the skin or really comfortable on the skin for your forearms and all that sort of stuff, and it's not like sticky and is a real benefit. So ours just kind of feels great to throw on next to skin as well, and it keeps your bone dry.
That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you got a killer jacket, and that jacket is that's pretty lightweight, so you can kind of roll it up and just toss in your hip pack or something like that. It's pretty small, pretty compact.
Yeah, so one of the pockets kind of turns inside out, and
Oh
you
yeah,
can pack it good, and it has a reversible zipper, so it just packs into like a small little pouch that you can
there you
throw
go.
into any bag or whatever. Yeah,
There you go. And yeah, and going back to the short, the short, pant shorts. I mean, the funny thing about those is that they're actually not getting them off is easy, but it's getting them back on, which is always the hassle. You know what I mean? You're like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? But I think this is cool. I mean, it sounds like so. You guys talking about the gear again? Just to wrap this up, you've got a pair of pants, a shirt, a waterproof jacket. What about on the gloves and all that stuff? Are you planning on getting into that, or do you have any of the extra accessory stuff?
yeah. We're coming out with a couple of bags next year, not this year, but like kind of a waterproof boat bag, that you can kind of get in and out of pretty quickly for fly storage and that sort of stuff. Um, I don't know what I don't know if we're going to go down the sun glove. I know that there's definitely a need from the guys that spend a lot of time on the water, like the tops of their hands just hammered from the sun. So, I'm not a big fan of the gloves in terms of like stripping, these little like sort of sun gloves or lightweight gloves. I feel like you can't feel as well as you need. And while it might save you from some sort of like burn from the fly line, I don't think it's worth that. That sort of protection is not worth the feeling that you get from being able to strip or feel, a fish on your line or take the bite or how hard to set the hook or all of that sort of stuff. So I'm just not personally a fan of like fishing gloves, but we are trying to think creatively about how to protect the tops of people's hands from the sun and still give them the dexterity and the touch with their fingers.
I think about the gloves, and obviously we're out here in the Northwest, so it's a different, a lot of the fishing we're doing is a little bit colder, but like the wool, like fingerless wool gloves, or if I had to go with one pair of gloves, I mean, it's like lightweight fingerless wool. It doesn't probably work on salt as well, but I don't go anywhere without them. You know what I mean? It seems, but they're fingerless, so you can touch your line, you can
Yeah.
feel it, and it's funny when you think about it, even when it's freezing out, your tips of your fingers don't have to be covered, as long as it's almost like your body, right? Your core needs to be covered with warmth, but your extremities are okay. Let's dig in just quickly, as we have a little time here into the hunting side because. Again, we talked about gearing up for a Belize trip, but what if you were gearing up for this duck camp, or whatever, elk camp, somewhere where maybe it's a little colder? Do you guys cover that line as well?
Yeah, and we like to think of ourselves, like there's nothing greater than going on a trip where you can do both. So, there's some great opportunities for you to in the South here to go on a duck hunt for 2 days, and then on the afternoon of the second day or for the third day, like go chase redfish. It's pretty much the same um, environment, or go chase bass, in the afternoon after your duck hunt. So, and then up north too, like I think you could get after some fish on a river at the same time that you're, especially like elk season in September. I mean, there's still some good flows and some good rivers that you could
Mm-hmm.
do both, and there's definitely some upland hunts, that we've looked into and that we know people have done for like chucker
Yeah.
on the banks of rivers in Idaho. So you kind of like you're floating down the river and you're fishing, and then you see some birds flushing, and you kind of pull over and go chase them, and then get back in the boat. So,
Yep.
we love getting after both of it. On the hunt side, yeah, we do have a few more insulated pieces. We do a lot of merino wool. So we've got sort of our standard merino wool long underwear, tops and bottoms. We do a kind of a beefed up 350 gram weight hoodie, merino wool hoodie, that we call the barn burner, which is like super warm and soft and comfortable. We're coming out with the same weight fabric in some pants for
Nice.
layering in the fall. We do those same down products we do in the hunt side as well, just kind of printed in our camouflages. So, you can kind of layer from sort of merino wool to, maybe a heavyweight button up shirt to a down jacket or merino wool hoodie to like outerwear, rain jackets and rain pants. You can be comfortable in everything from 80 degrees to down to 20 degrees. Be comfortable for a long sit. So and it's growing. The line's growing. This fall we're coming out with cool new products as well. Some products focused on whitetail and but yeah, it's been good.
What is the, just for somebody, again, who's kind of new to it, and you hear about the merino wool, it's almost like the Gore-Tex sort of thing, but, how is merino wool just different from just any wool? Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, so merino is rated in terms of microns, and so they take merino comes from a specific sheep, and those sheep a lot of them are New Zealand, Australia, some of them are in China and Asia. But they take that specific, wool from those specific sheep, and then they bring it down. They clean it, and then they process it, and they bring it down to a certain of the fiber level at a certain micron. So even within merino, there will be different qualities, and so you'll usually kind of look at if you're looking specifically for it, you'll be looking at the micron level, the weight and the micron level, and so the higher the micron, the sort of the coarser that wool is going to be, and also potentially, merino is generally a really soft wool, but in the higher numbers, say 30 or 25 to 30 microns, that's going to feel a little bit coarser and a little bit scratchier than say like a 20 or even an 18 micron, which just means that the fiber is even smaller, so that it feels softer on the skin. And so, but as the weight of the fabric goes up, then the micron is maybe less important. So if you're wearing like a really lightweight wool with like coarse fibers, you're going to feel that more than if you're wearing a heavier weight wool with those same coarse fibers, just because the weight of the fabric sort of plays in. So anyway, on our standard merino wool base layers, we use a super small micron because it's a lighter weight wool, and so that has this sort of feeling. It doesn't have your traditional wool sort of scratchy. It feels like you're wearing,
bamboo or something.
Yeah, super soft. And then the benefits of wool are that it's antimicrobial, so you can wear it for a week straight and it won't smell, and it wicks moisture away from your body. So it has a natural wicking ability to sort of take sweat away from the body to the outside of the fabric. And it insulates even when wet. So if you do work up a sweat, or say you get rained on, or you fall in a river or something, it's still, while it's not going to be as comfortable, obviously, if it was dry, it still does insulate even when it's wet. So it's got some great natural qualities to it, and we're just really big fans of it.
Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. It sounds like your line, the more you talk about it, it sounds like your line is focused on, comfort, and I mean, everything seems like softer, and obviously, but it's made for the environment as well. So in the hunting line, you guys have enough to keep you warm out there if you are going into some colder conditions, but at the same time, it's just like layering, right? You kind of choose your gear and have different sets of layers. What about the pattern on this stuff you guys use? I know you've obviously patterns. I'm not a big hunter. I'm actually more of a deer hunter and elk hunter. So I'm more shooting across the canyon, long shots. So I'm more interested in wearing orange, so I'm seen by others. But how I know that's important to some hardcore hunters, especially like bow hunters and stuff like that. The pattern. How do you guys work on it? How do you get the right pattern, and how do you compare that to say some of these companies? Is it more kind of blown up, like you don't need to worry that much about it?
Yeah, so I mean, camouflage patterns have also really changed in the last 10 years or so. I think that there was a huge amount of stick and leaf sort of photorealistic camos for a really long time. The real trees and mossy oaks of the world. And I think there's been some development in terms of understanding how animals see, in terms of their color palettes, as well as the shapes that they see, the shape of their eyes, that there's been some more understanding in terms of, what helps to distract or to blend in to that animal, since they don't see the same way that we see. And so that means that you don't have to look like the tree you're standing next to per se. You just have to blend in a way that their eyes can't see. And so we've sort of taken some of that science and applied them to our camouflage patterns. We have, 3 basic environments that we make a pattern for. One is we call wetland, and that is, for real open, either flooded agriculture or marshes. It's, there's not a lot of trees. It's really exposed to the sun. It's, and typically we promote that pattern for sort of duck hunting where, the perspective of the animal is from above looking down on sort of, broken land, flooded areas, water and mixed land sort of. And so it's kind of splotchy. It's got some contrast of darks to lights. It has, so the science is sort of that the contrast between dark and light creates shadows for the eye. And then there's usually some sort of micro pattern on top, and that creates some sort of distraction of maybe something in the foreground. So you kind of like sink in with the shadows, you sort of sink back, and then with the micro, sort of pattern on top, it sort of creates a distraction for the eye. And so we have that wetland pattern that's meant for that environment. We have what we call a woodland pattern, which is meant for being sort of in the trees, in the canopy. And the perspective of that animal is could be from a different, it could either be a white-tailed deer or an animal, and you might be elevated like up in the tree and they might be looking up at you, or it might be from birds coming into the trees or turkeys on the ground and you're on the ground. So it's been thought of, from a few different perspectives and a few different animals, but in generally it's a more vertical pattern that blends in well. I mean, typically to conceal yourself, it's common to sort of be up against a tree, and so there's natural patterns there to like tree bark being more vertical, and it still has that contrast of darks and lights, and some micro patterns on top. And then our third environment is what we call midland, which is sort of that high desert or brushy country. It's good from everywhere from like West Texas all the way up through Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, where it's like it's a mix of desert, rocks and brush and desert, and so that sort of pattern has been kind of developed for those environments.
That's cool. Yeah, it sounds like you guys have obviously thought this over a little bit. You cover a little bit of everything. That's cool. Okay, so it seems like we've have we kind of covered things pretty well on your guys' line? I know you've got a bunch of stuff going on. Anything else you want to kind of give a shout out to before we start to head out of here?
No, I mean, it's an honor to be asked to be included on the podcast. We know you have a great following. Unfortunately we can't spend an hour talking about steelhead because we're not huge steelhead guys, but we do enjoy your part of the world. We spent a few trips to Alaska and chasing fish up there, and so, I mean, we love what you're doing, and we really appreciate, being asked to be on it, and being able to tell our story.
That's cool. Yeah, it's really interesting. I've been doing a lot of work recently looking at some of the, analytics and seeing where all of our people are, everybody out there is coming from. And we've got a kind of a group, a members group and stuff like that. And it's really interesting it's almost like the, the political, right? The blue and red states sort of thing, which is kind of funny. But obviously we got a bunch on the West Coast, but there's also a bunch on the East Coast, right? New York, Pennsylvania, Great Lakes. But as I look at it, I mean, we literally have listeners in every state of the country and many countries around the world, right? And that's the amazing thing. Like you said, we got people in the Middle East that listen. So it's
cool.
It's exciting for me because I know, and that's why I love having folks like yourself on here, because obviously there's people in your neck of the woods that listen, just not as many as probably out in the Northwest. And we hope to keep growing this thing, as we go. And the cool thing is that we did start out with a good focus on steelhead, but we have a whole season on destinations, and we had and we're going to go back to that as well, especially as we do more of these trips around the country and stuff. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I think your stuff for sure, I know people are going to stop by and check it out because, you've painted a good picture. The bamboo, merino wool, I understand better why you want that stuff in it's obvious when you put it on. The crappy stuff when you put on, it's obvious because you're right. It feels like plastic. If it doesn't feel like plastic right away, eventually it does. But
Yeah.
But cool. Hey, Sim, before we get out of here, we have a lot of businesses that also listen to this, a lot of companies that are, some are new, some are old, but what would you give them? I mean, it seems like you guys are doing really well out there. You're doing awesome on Instagram and stuff like that. Would you have a tip, like maybe a small business tip for somebody to help somebody, if they're just getting into it, to help them grow in the outdoor space? I know, and I kind of put you on the spot there, so I know that's not always an easy one, but it just seems like for you guys, you're doing a really good job. What are you doing that's working so well for you?
Yeah. I think in this space, I mean, a lot of people will talk about authenticity, but I think that especially in the hunt and fish space, like it's impossible to garner any real following without being authentic. It's, people can see, especially with like things as specific as fly fishing or, bow hunting, people will spot things that aren't authentic immediately, and it's hard to come back from that. So, picking something that you are passionate about, and that you don't have to be an expert in it, but you just have to, be humble, and, for things that you don't know well, just be honest about it, and then and show your passion and authenticity in the space that you're really interested in. And as an entrepreneur, it's, what I've been able to find success in is finding people, getting people excited about my idea that are smarter than me and better than me at the things that are going to, make us successful. So you don't have to be, I know it's tough in the early days, like especially with a startup, when you don't have a lot of money and you're still trying to get something off the ground, but you don't have, being a generalist is good, but then once you can kind of take a breath and, get your head up, finding the people that are going to be like the real experts within the different parts of your business that are important is like the next step, because no one expects you to be able to do it all. And so, yeah, I guess that would be my advice.
Totally. That's a cool tip. And we didn't even dig into your group. Maybe you can just give us a short, little less than a minute on your team there. Are you guys like a small, little tight group, or who do you have there that we should know about?
Yeah, so we've been growing. I think right now we're 14.
Oh, wow.
So it's a decent sized team. A year ago, if we would have had this call, I think we would have been more like 6 or 7.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, yeah, and we're talking. We've got some roles that we're looking to hire as well. So that should grow again. But yeah, we've got a great, strong team. I think you might have talked to James Elledge at some point, kind of setting this up. He handles a lot of our brand marketing and ambassadors and conservation. That's something that we're about to kick off, which we're excited about. We've just been approved by 2% for conservation. So we're committing to 2% of all sales, either in cash or in kind, to conservation. And we've got some cool projects coming on with right now. Today we launched a collab or a sort of a kickoff with Trout Unlimited, where if you order a certain amount of product, you get a 1-year annual subscription to Trout Unlimited. And so we've got some other things in the works for conservation. So yeah,
that's awesome. That's all. What was, just quickly on the conservation, because there's a couple of these groups out there that are doing awesome stuff, but what was that process like getting accepted for the 2% for conservation?
Yeah, so James led that, and I think it was relatively straightforward. From what I wasn't involved in the details of it, but it took him about a month or so to kind of get that approval, and now we can use that logo on everything. And our goal is to sort of not to choose like maybe one organization, but to kind of have that in an account, and we can do like 2 like different projects throughout the year with different organizations, because we sort of focus on a lot of different things, everything from turkey to ducks to deer to
exactly,
tarpon to
so
trout.
much.
Like we want to be able to use those funds to help different organizations based on sort of our seasons. But But, one thing that we're adding to that conservation sort of angle is like this, a lot of brands have these ambassador programs. What we're hoping to do with our ambassador program is it to be more in line with our conservation efforts. So it's not like just an ambassador because they're, some super pro guide and like to wear our stuff, but it's someone that cares about the conservation of the species that they target the most, and is kind of willing to kind of also spend time and energy helping to promote the conservation of that. So we're going to choose, redfish guides that, have a voice and speak out for protecting the coastal environment. We're going to speak to, deer hunters who are big advocates for deer management. We're going to, sort of along the way, we're going to have ambassadors that want to use that sort of position to help us to draw attention to conservation within their specialties, and hopefully raise some money and do some cool projects along the way to kind of promote that.
Amazing. Hey, and one quick round. I love to ask this sometimes when I have time, a random one for you. But music. What do you have a favorite type of music or band or something you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I feel like my playlist has been kind of stagnant over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
but
me
I was
too.
a huge John Prine fan.
Oh yeah.
And his 1 year anniversary of his death was like a couple of days ago. So,
Oh wow.
he unfortunately, got COVID and passed away. And, but he's a great musician. Personally, My Morning Jacket doesn't get much better than that. And we like this sort of like alternative country, although Sturgill Simpson would probably not agree with that title.
Oh yeah.
People like Sturgill
Yep.
and Tyler Childers and Willie Nelson. And, being in Texas, we tend to lean a little country on some of our stuff.
Where are you guys at? Where are you guys at in Texas?
We're based in Austin, Texas.
Oh yeah, you're right in the heart of it. Yeah. That's the thing. You guys are that's the thing. I always think occasionally when I have the Texas folks, and it just seems like, why is Austin? Is that why it is? It's just more diverse, or why do you always hear Austin is so unique in Texas, or is it? Are there some other places around Texas that are similar?
No, it's definitely unique for Texas. Every city has its little kind of stereotype, but I think the University of Texas here has really done a great job of keeping it diverse.
Oh, right.
Texas has had this program for a long time where the top 10% of every high school in Texas, gets admissions to the University of Texas. So It draws from every, like, from little high schools in small towns to big high schools in big cities, but it really brings a great diversity of people to Austin. And then people from out of state come as well. And it's a big school. It's like 50,000 kids. Wow. So, every year you've got this influx of just really smart, really, really talented, diverse kids coming out of school that also love the city and want to stick around. So, they kind of create opportunities for themselves. Like if they can't find a job, the draw of Austin is so strong that they'd rather come up, make something work for them just so that they can stay. So there's been a good amount of entrepreneurship that kind of has been on the back of that. Obviously brands like Dell have been big proponents of that. And now you've got just tons of companies from California coming in to kind of set up shop here because of the talent availability. Yeah, it's a cool city.
Amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I'll put just on the music. I love throwing a clip. Either I'll know if it's John Prine or Willie or one of those. I'll put them in the show notes so somebody can listen to some stuff after they finish this episode up. And cool, Sam. Well, this has been awesome. This has been a lot of fun. You may have mentioned it, but in this next 6 to 12 months, anything new coming out for you guys, or you want to highlight something coming up, or yourself personally?
No, we've got a lot of new stuff coming out. I would, if people are interested, obviously they can follow us on Instagram, at Duck Camp Co. Our website's duckcamp.com. You can sign up for email notifications. Like I said, we've got, we launched something, actually, I'm not sure when this is going to air, but today, the day that we're talking, we actually launched some new fishing products, and then we have another smaller launch that's coming out in about a week or so. So, we've got a bunch of stuff coming down the pipe. So we appreciate anybody kind of checking it out, and appreciate your time as well, Dave.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll put a link to all this we talked about in the show notes, and get some specific photos and stuff like that so people can check you out. So yeah, thanks for all the time today. This has been, obviously I think I have a good perspective on it. I think seeing it from Instagram, you get one perspective, which was good, but when you talk like this is where it really breaks it down. I appreciate you shedding some light on everything you guys are doing, and yeah, looking forward to keeping in touch with you.
My pleasure, Dave. Thank you very much.
So there you go. If you want to find all the show notes, all the links, and everything else we covered today, just head over to wetflyswing.com/228. That's 228. Please take a moment and subscribe on your app of choice. This will assure that you get the next episode delivered right to your inbox. And the next episode you don't want to miss next week, next Tuesday morning, bright and early when you get up, is going to be Mike Schultz. Mike breaks down smallmouth bass fishing. So he is definitely one of the leaders in the country, probably in the world, in smallmouth bass fishing. And he kind of walks us through a step-by-step process. So again, subscribe, and you'll get that delivered right to your phone when you wake up. That's all I have for you. That's a wrap today. Looking forward to keeping in touch with you. I hope if you can, maybe send me an email, join the newsletter, or just say hey, and maybe we'll see you on the water or online.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.